Okay, good evening, everyone. Nice to see quite a few of you online already. Hopefully, a few more can join. Um, I did just had a question a bit earlier. We still use the same textbook next semester. We use chapters 11 to 15, and then learning unit 6 for next semester, which is the final learning unit, would be an additional guide that you would download with your module guide. Next semester, it's 6 learning units, each learning unit based on a department or business function, starting with operations all the way to the final guide that you download, strategic management. But for today, we are again just briefly going to cover chapters 7 to 10. I'm going to ask you to do a short quiz on Google Forms based on the content, learning unit 7 to 10. And then we can review that, and obviously with questions in between from you guys would be always useful. So thank you for Odette, thank you for the question so far, and Darcy, you have a question. Um, I don't know, you just answered this question, but I joined as you were finishing the sentence just to double check the exam scope is chapter 1 to 10. Yeah, so your exam, we can actually then start with that. The exam is chapters 1 to 10, um, learning unit 1 to 10, obviously. You have not been tested or assessed yet on learning units 7 to 10. Your exam is 100 marks. You'd see which you should do, is review past papers, which you can download from the IE's library. You'd see that previous papers were 120 marks. So lucky you, 20 marks less, and you still get the 2 hours to complete it. Um, if I would take a guess, I would say 40 to 50 marks would be, okay, let's say 30 to 50 marks would be learning units 7 to 10. Learning units 1 to 4, I would say for all 4 learning units, if I were to develop this exam, I wouldn't ask more than like 20 marks, maybe 30 marks for learning units 1 to 4, and then another 20 to 30 marks for learning units 5 and 6, because you've been tested only for the assignment uh, for your first assignment learning units 1 to 4, and for your second assignment learning unit 1 to 6, and then you haven't been tested for learning unit 7 to 10. So 7 to 10 usually would be the learning unit that's most featured in your exam. Not to say you shouldn't study and know learning units 1 to 6, but hopefully the assignments assisted you guys with studying for that as well. Secondly, on that, if you have not already, please check your emails. I believe you've been emailed at least a month ago regarding your exam venue. I even believe during registration you had to pick your exam venue, or somewhere there they ask you where you want your exam venue. Those of you close to a varsity college, or maybe another type of IE college or facility, you could have picked that place to do your exam. Um, Otherwise, you would have done, I think there's another option where it's like an invigilated exam at either another facility or from home. But please check that email if you haven't already, because you need to reply. If you haven't got that email, please log a VC Assist ticket. Hopefully that answered those questions. That answered your question, and those of you wondering about the exam. Obviously, with the exam, is a bit different, a lot different to your assignment. So the studying is going to be a bit, well, you're actually going to have to study actually. Please let me know if you have any questions, just like exam tips, right? To study for exam, create a study schedule. Set out time during the day in the next few weeks, either a few days a week, or maybe you're one of those people who'd rather spend some time every day, maybe 10 minutes, half an hour a day. Make summaries on the learning units from learning units 1 to 10 on the most important parts. Usually during my lectures or my collabs, I cover the most important parts of each chapter, so you can watch that and make notes if you haven't already. But obviously I don't cover everything because we have limited time. So if you guys don't understand anything from chapters 1 to 10 from the textbook, please email me, ask questions. I'd even consider if there's like a specific chapter or specific maybe part of a chapter that you guys don't understand, I'll make a short video on that as well. So please let me know. But yeah, create a study schedule for yourself where you set out time or at least a week before your exam is written that you actually set out a study schedule to make sure that you study enough. And even something like developing SMART goals, which we also go into with actually learning at 7. I think we went into it 2 weeks ago as well. And setting goals for yourself that on day 1 you're going to study learning unit 1, day 2 learning unit 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I would just say spend a bit more time on learning unit 7 to 10. Uh, Someone have a question? Also space out to study sessions. Don't try not to. I know some people can do this. Most of us can't. Don't spend like 8, 9, 10, 12 hours a day on one subject, one module like business management. You might get burnt out, or you might just get so over business management that you don't want to study it for the next few days. Practice past papers, which might be the most applicable and even most important part of your studies. After you make stuff like summaries and flashcards and stuff like that and watch the collabs, um, practice past papers. Uh, Download 2024's paper, 2023, 2019's paper, 2018's paper, and maybe your goal for that day can be completing this paper. How do you do that? You take that 120 mark paper and you set out 2 hours for yourself to, without looking at your textbook, to complete that paper. Set a timer, try and complete it in 2 hours, and then take a rest hour, 2 hours, come back to it, and then mark it. See based on your textbook what you got right, what you got wrong, and where you think you can improve, and then use a different color pen for that. So if you write in black for your exam when you test yourself, and then you come back, do it in a red pen or blue pen so you can see where you can improve. Then after you get the right answers, read through it. And that's one of the best ways to test yourself. If you do like 2, 3, 4, 5 tests like that or exams, you'd be in a much better position and ready for your exam. And you basically practice what you're going to do, which is the most important part. And that's what we do in sports, most sports. You, how do you play rugby? You practice rugby, you practice scenarios within rugby, you do lineouts, you do scrums, you do game plan, you do kicks, you do passes and stuff like that. And you basically copy what you do in a game, similar with soccer, cricket, netball, hockey, all of these other sports. If you don't actually practice it, you can read books about it, you can study about it, but if you don't actually practice what you're going to do, it's going to be more difficult. Use active learning or sorry, active recall as well. It might not be a bad idea just to randomly tell your boyfriend, girlfriend, your friends, your colleagues, your wife, husband, or whatever it might be, to just randomly tell them, did you know the planning process is this or the control process is this, and this is how it should be used in a business. Just using active recall to kind of settle your mind, your brain to understand it better. And if you say it out loud, which is another tip, saying it out loud also assists with learning outside writing it down. And then obviously reinforce your progress. Maybe just look back if you're really getting tired of studying business management. Look back at what you've already studied and what you already know, and it might even motivate you. Um, Study each module weekly, not only business management, review one chapter per session, for example, or make summaries or make flashcards. Um, Maybe try and do 1 hour daily until your exam. Practice with past papers. Try and do at least 5. Recall anything at random stage during the day to use active recall, and review progress and restudy mistakes, which is the most important part. Guys, we don't learn from successes, we learn from failures. Entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs and become good entrepreneurs, become profitable entrepreneurs because they fail, not because they succeed. And all these multi-millionaires and billionaires across the world, they made many, many mistakes and they still make mistakes. That's why they are where they are, but they learn from their mistakes. Learning Unit 7, planning. First step, it is the first step in management. It sets the direction and goals. You use SMART goals as a framework, and you can use strategic long-term goals, tactical medium-term goals, operational goals, or set those goals into plans for operational, which is daily, weekly, monthly. Planning reduces uncertainty because we are uncertain about the environment. We don't know what might happen, but we could plan for what might happen. If we have set plans for certain scenarios or certain, maybe we have plans for if our employees struck, or we have plans for the next pandemic, or we have plans if there's a flood, or if you're in other parts of the world, earthquakes and stuff like that, and how we can react towards that. And it enables control and coordination. For example, the Coffee Brew Cafe and Distributors, which is a fictional company, they sell premium homegrown coffee. They want from 1 to 10 stores in the next 5 years, and that's part of their SMART goal or their SMART goal framework. But they want to break it down. They want to do that in 5 years. They want 10 stores in 5 years. So they want their second store at least by next year. But they aim to do this by firstly upskilling the employees with coffee knowledge about coffee, knowledge about beans, different coffee beans, the different aromas, the different tastes and stuff like that. So when someone comes and buys coffee, either in bulk or singular um, cups of coffee, that the person that they're speaking to, the employee, is knowledgeable about it, which gives them credibility and might improve stuff like customer loyalty and trust. Um, and then enables control and coordination for your annual business performance review. Let me know if you have any questions on the planning. And this is the most important part. I'm going to leave this here. Please write this down. This is the planning process. This might be one of the most important, if not the most important part of this chapter, the planning process. The planning process starting with establishing organizational goals. Like I said in the previous slide, long-term, medium-term, and short-term goals. But with that, you need to also develop alternative plans. You can't just expect that all your goals are going to be reached and all your plans are going to succeed. You need contingency plans, but with that contingency plans, you compare it to the plan that you want to implement. So you evaluate each alternative plan, you see which is the best plan, and you select that plan. Then you implement that chosen plan. If it's the original or one of the alternatives, which you think you need the least amount of resources, where you can get the most amount of gain or most amount of profit, you implement that plan with those goals, and then you perform reactive planning if needed. You might implement one plan, that plan doesn't work, but you have alternative plans, you leave that plan, and you take one of the alternative plans. So please write this down. And as we progress to what's my company's name, the Coffee Brew Cafe and Distributors, um, they have an ambitious goal of opening 10 stores in 5 years. But they can brainstorm multiple growth paths. Maybe they don't necessarily need to open up 10 stores. Maybe they only need to open up 5 stores and maybe just increase their reach with their current stores, or maybe increase their online reach, which could be alternative plans, which means that they need to kill weak ideas fast, efficiently, so that they can focus on the strong, in quotation marks, ideas, where they pick the highest return on investment plan, the one that costs the least resources but making the most amount of profit, for example. They execute it with urgency because they want to do it as quickly as possible so that they can react to the environment and react to their plan. If the plan doesn't work, luckily they implemented it quickly and they can just make adjustments to that current plan or choose one of the alternative plans. I'm just going to leave that up for another few seconds or maybe a minute. And those of you who are still taking notes or anything, can you please just react with a surprised emoji so I know that I shouldn't move on. Otherwise, I'm going to move on. I don't see any surprise emojis, so I'm going to move on. Just again, there's types of plans. You have strategic managers that create long-term or strategic plans. You have middle managers that create tactical goals, tactical plans, or medium-term plans. You have operational managers that create operational goals, operational plans, so short-term plans. But you also have single-use plans and standing plans. So a single-use plan or single-use plans, for example, for them would be coffee promotions. Buying one cup of coffee and get 15% off a 1 kilogram coffee beans bag. So that might be a way for them to make more money because maybe they make like a cup of coffee costs, let's say 30 Rand. In each cup of coffee, they make 5 to 10 Rand. But a kilogram bag of beans, maybe that's 300 Rand. And for each 300 Rand bag, they make 50 to 100 Rand, maybe more. Well, most likely more per bag. So it's a way for them to introduce the beans to their customers that's already buying the coffee. And then the customer says, well, I don't really have a coffee grinder. And you say, well, I have like a 100 Rand coffee grinder, hand grinder there if you want it. Um, and I can give you 15% off for that as well. So maybe using sales techniques. Why do we do this? We want to attract new customers. That's one of the reasons we use single-use plans. So it's not something we do too often. Um, not necessarily too often, but over a medium or longer term. And then we have standing plans like developing a premium coffee product. How? Through quality beans. So either growing quality beans, which is probably not feasible, but buying quality beans from maybe from a local supplier. I'm not sure how many coffee bean uh, suppliers there are in South Africa that actually grow coffee beans or farmers. But if they get it from other parts of Africa or South America, um, getting one that's premium but still relatively affordable. And why? They want a higher profit margin. So again, ROI, return on investment. Moving on to organizing, there's the second function of management. It allocates resources and tasks. So after we plan and set goals, we allocate those resources and we allocate who are the people that are going to achieve our goals. It builds the organizational structure, it coordinates, it ensures efficiency and productivity, and it follows the planning phase, succeeds the planning phase. And again, I'm going to leave this open. Please take note of this, write it down. If you want to take a photo, a screenshot, or whatever you want to do. But this is also one of the most important parts of the chapter 8, learning unit 8, the organization chapter. So please take note of this. So designing jobs and responsibilities, grouping jobs into departments, establishing reporting lines, defining authority and accountability, and coordinating interdependent activities. From point 1 to 5, 5 building blocks. Can anyone tell me, is there one of these 5 points you don't understand as it sits there? Maybe the design of job, the grouping of jobs, what reporting lines are, or authority or accountability, or what interdependent activities is. Please raise your hand or type in chat. Otherwise, I'm going to move on. Can I get a thumbs up if everyone's on the same page? So there's at least a bit of interaction. Getting one thumbs up. Another 2 thumbs up. Fourth. Okay, I need at least 2 more, so I know the majority is fine. Thank you, Jerome. Okay. Okay. It's not too difficult. You're just gonna have to know the five building blocks. So departmentalization, which is moving from design of jobs to the grouping of jobs into the departments. Operations handle supply and logistics. How we might departmentalize our business. Marketing drives the foot traffic. So the online store, we have sales or a sales team, closes bulk coffee distribution deals. So that might be where our profit is. We lure our customers, our day-to-day activity in to buy cups of coffee, maybe treats and stuff like that. But maybe we make most of our money with bulk coffee distribution to maybe other businesses or customers that want to buy 1, 2, 3, 5 kilograms worth of coffee because they and their family are avid coffee drinkers. And human resources builds a culture and develops teams. They even pick teams or pick employees. They state what their tasks are. They ensure that the contracts are correct and that they are remunerated for the contracts for what the tasks that they do. Finance tracks every cent so that SARS don't come and knock on our door, do an audit unnecessarily. And we use cross-functional teams to solve problems, generate ideas and stuff like that. I might have a monthly meeting or maybe a weekly meeting with the heads of our departments, getting together, talk about the problems we have in our business, certain solutions, and how we can innovate and move forward. Again, you're going to have to know these five different departmentalizations: functional, product, locational or location-based, customer, and matrix. So please take note of this. Um, so the functional base is based on tasks. So the functional departmentalization activities under each managerial function is grouped together. So based on the business function, so operations, we departmentalize our operations. We top another department is our finance, another department. So for Varsity College, our academic department, we have our marketing department, we have our not customer service department, what we call them, the service department. Can't remember what Varsity College call them. We have product-based offerings. Product-based departmentalization based on the offerings of the business. So, for example, managers of a department might focus on its own products and not of its sister stores. So, for example, the Fushini Group, they also use the product-based departmentalization where Total Sports in Durban and Port Elizabeth and Cape Town each have their own managers with their own employees, and they are a sister store of The Scene, of Archive, of Fushini or Archive, Fushini, High Online, and all of these other places. But there aren't managers of all these stores. There's one manager and a group of employees for that one store. There's another one for Exact. There's another one for The Scene, etc., etc. So it's based on the different products, and each of those businesses, even though most of them sell clothes, and they offer different variations. So Total Sports focuses on sports, Exact focuses on affordable clothing, Roshini focuses on female clothing. Um, yeah, stuff like that. Location based, very easy. You can even go back to the Fushini group. Um, you have different areas where these businesses are, like Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, Western Cape, etc. And you might have your own area manager for each of the provinces or even each of the cities. Customer based, so you might have special segments or group consumers into maybe a specific department and say, okay, this department focuses on this group of customers. So maybe you have a department that focuses specifically on females, and another department focuses specifically on males, or other department focuses on kids, for example. And then you have matrix which combined multiple forms of departmentalization. Can I get a thumbs up if everyone uh, is fine with the different departmentalizations? It's very important. Or a surprised emoji if you guys aren't sure on any of the departmentalizations. Can I get a thumbs up, guys? Otherwise, a surprise? Anyone surprised? No one surprised. Happy chappy. Learning unit 9, leading. So moving from organizing to leading the people that you organize into different departments. You influence people towards the goals of the business and their personal goals even. Um, there's a difference between leadership and managers. You might have a manager that's not a good leader. You might have a good leader that's not a manager. A manager is a formal role. A leader is based on your skill. We use power and authority. Authority is given. Power is usually, how can I say? Uh, Authority is given by an organization. Power is given by followers. You build trust and you try and motivate. You try and encourage communication and teamwork, and you try and adapt based on a changing environment. Important here is you need to know the different types of leadership theories. You have your traditional theories, you have your contemporary theories, and you have your new theories. Your traditional theories, you have trait theory based on your different traits. The traits is basically like a well-established skill that a person obtained. And they did studies over 100 years ago, these studies started, and they said, good leaders, what type of traits do they have? Behavioral theory is moving away from what skills do good leaders have to how do good leaders behave. Contingency theory is, okay, how is one situation contingent with another situation? In the terms of leadership, how do leaders react in different situations? If a pandemic occurs, how does our leadership react to that? Very basic, broad overview of each of those theories. Going into contemporary theories, which are newer theories, you have something like EQ. So EQ is emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence beats just like book smarts or IQ intelligence in teams. If you know how to work in a team, you are able to outwit or out innovate or out creative or whatever you want to call it, out idea a person or group of people who don't know how to work together in a team. EQ, there's I think there's five parts of EQ: being self-aware of your emotions, being able to manage your own emotions, being aware of other people's emotions, managing their emotions and reactions, and there's one thing I think I'm missing, and one aspect I'm missing about EQ. But it's all about knowing your emotions, knowing how you feel, knowing yourself, knowing how to manage yourself, and then knowing other people's emotions and knowing how to manage them. Visionary leaderships paints a clear picture of the future. Visionary leaders have a very clear picture of where they want the company to go, what they want the company to achieve. Charismatic leaders, uh, think of Hitler, if you want to look at it like that. Charismatic leaders are uh, leaders that other people are attracted to based on their charisma, based on how they communicate, how their body language, how they react and act in different situations. Transformational leaders drive deep change. You get a transformational leader in your business if your business might be failing and you want to move them into a direction to success, or you are seeing you are in a market that's not growing anymore, or maybe it's failing, like, for example, the newspaper market 20 years ago. You get a transformation leader to um, assist your business to move online. And then you have transactional leaders, which reward performance. And then finally, your newer theories. Why is that duplicated? Uh, okay. Your newer theories. The one is the diversity management. Diversity management, think of South Africa. And those of you who work, or those of you who even remember from high school, or from if you were at another university or whatever it might be. South Africa is very diverse, and we need to be able to manage that diversity, manage different cultures. You can't act and react the same with males as opposed to females. You can't act and react the same with people that are from a Zulu, Xhosa, Afrikaans, English, um, colored, or whatever it might be, culture. Different backgrounds, different people. You need to manage them slightly differently. And then obviously in a team-based situation, you need to be able to um, manage that as well because people with different backgrounds, different cultures, different races, they are able to better, how can I say, develop better ideas, innovate better, be creative and stuff like that. But because we are from different cultures in this team, we should be managed correctly because we might waste a lot of time trying to communicate our differences and how we want to move forward as opposed to trying to settle on how can I say, through line, a golden thread, and focus on what we actually need to achieve. So that's where good leadership is very important. Let me just quickly get the other newer leadership forms because I can't remember what the others are, and obviously my thing was not updated correctly. I'll be with you guys now. I'm just gonna leave this open here so you guys can just read through that so long. Okay, so hopefully that updated. I hope you guys are still with me. Why is my screen gray? There we go. Okay, there we go. Ethical leadership, um, which is based on ethics, acting ethically, maybe acting in a based on business sustainability. So thinking of the people, not making decisions based on profit only, but based on other people, based on the environment, cross-cultural leadership based on different cultures, able ability to manage diversity, servant leadership, which is a very Japanese type of leadership where you serve your employees and your system in any way possible and not directly lead them as you would maybe in a transactional leadership way. Peer-to-peer leadership is a type of leadership where you can think about it like in a law firm. In a law firm, the organizational structure is very flat. So your people straight become lawyers or do the articles have very easy access to the partners of the business, which is at the top or very close to the top of the business. And the partners, you can say have peer-to-peer leadership. We have different partners in the law firm. Each of those partners usually is the head of a certain department, and they make a lot of decisions on their own, and they get together and make decisions together. It's almost like a democratic type of leadership. And then you have agile leadership. Agile leadership, you think of adaptability. Those people that are able to adapt from one situation to the next situation. And then the final section final learning unit is control, the ability to identify deviations and errors, take corrective action. It is the final managerial function. It's aimed at continuous improvement. So the steps, so please take note of this, the steps of the control process and write this down. Set performance standards. You set your performance standards based on the goals of your organization. And then you say that did we meet these standards? And you can do that maybe through an annual review. You compare it with your set standards and you identify the performance gaps. We wanted to sell 100 bags of coffee each week. We're only selling 80 bags of coffee. That is our gap between what we want and what we have or what we're currently doing. What is the issue? Is our employees not skilled enough in sales? Is our coffee actually not too good? Is our coffee too expensive? For example, you take corrective action. We see that, okay, our employees don't know actually how to sell. Like I said earlier, I'm selling you a cup of coffee. You're telling me, oh, this coffee is tasty. And so, really, we have a bag of coffee, and because you bought that cup of coffee, we're giving you 15% off on this kilogram bag of coffee beans. Say, oh, but I don't have a grinder. You can say, okay, I can sell you this grinder. It's like 80 rands, not that much. It's cheaper than the bag of coffee. Or if you want, we can grind it for you if you maybe have a mocha pot or a full coffee filter machine or one of those plungers at home. And then you don't have to use the beans. I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. Can you grind it for me? Saying, no, I'm happy to. So that's a very kind of like organic way to sell something more. You're not forcing it upon the person. You are trying to assist them in selling that product. And then and obviously continuously monitoring and adjusting based on the performance of your business. Like for example, if your target was 100 bags of coffee and you're selling 200 bags of coffee, that's great, but why so much? Why was your standard at 100 bags of coffee? Why wasn't your standard at 200 or 300 bags of coffee? Is our coffee too cheap? Maybe can we sell it instead for 300 rand for 500 rand? We still get those 200 sales, or maybe we get 150 sales, but it's at from 300 to 500, that would be 66% markup. So we're still making a lot more money. Um, so you need to consider that as well. Um, you need to find a balance between, especially like I said earlier, if you want to sell a premium product, it can't be cheaper than the actual premium products out there. So set clear performance standards, measure what actually happens, compare against real benchmarks, identify gaps and root causes of problems, take action without delay, so do it quickly, and review and refine constantly. And going back to you studying, active recall. Read a section, close your book, write it down what you remember. Open your book and see what you didn't write down. Use flashcards. There's apps like Quizlet and Anki. I've been using Anki since I've done my honors in 2018, 7 years ago. Yeah. So Anki is very useful. It's a very basic app, but you can use Quizlet as well. And Anki is available on your phone and on desktop. uh, and teach the concept to someone. Just randomly tell one of your friends what you learned. Or you can use the Pomodoro technique. Okay, let's just quickly look here. Answer past paper from memory. Don't reread your notes. Ask yourself what are the 6 steps in the planning process and try to recall it without thinking. The Pomodoro technique. This technique was done by um, a graduate of Varsity College. She said she used it since high school. She graduated this year. She came number one in her class for education foundation phase here in PE. Average over the 4 years was 93%, and that's on all her modules. She was consistently number one from year one to year four. Um, she came in second in the entire country. The person that beat her out with a percent. So that person got 94% on average for all her subjects across the 4 years. And she said she used the Pomodoro technique. So you can't tell me it does not work. So the Pomodoro technique is choose a task to work on, set the timer for 25 minutes. That's one Pomodoro. Work with full focus, no distractions. So your phone is not allowed to be there. Your wife or your husband, your friend, your girlfriend, whatever is not allowed to come in. Your cat or dog is not so should not be there. And then after that, take a 5 minute break and then do four Pomodoros. So maybe say four altogether, around 25 minutes, 5 minute break, 25 minutes, 5 minute break, 25 minutes, 5 minute break, 25 minutes. And then after that, take a 15 to 30 minute break, so a longer break, and then come back and redo that. I hope that makes sense and I hope this actually helps. So study learning unit 7 for planning for 25 minutes, take a 5 minute break, repeat, and after 4 rounds, take a longer break and then switch to learning unit 8. So guys, please scan the QR code to complete the quiz. It's going to take you not longer than 10 minutes. It's not that many questions. Few of you might even do it in like 5 minutes. I'm going to post it in chat and in the Q&A as well. You can press on that link or you can scan the QR code. And when I'm going to come back in 10 minutes time and we're going to review your answers. So guys, please start and complete it as soon as possible. I'm also just going to post it on the Q&A. And after you guys complete the quiz, so I posted the link now as well. After you complete the quiz, please come back to chat and tell me that you've done, or maybe just do a thumbs up on the post or whatever it might be, and then we will review the quiz. So please, guys, 10 minutes and I'll be back. I'm going to stop recording and I'll start recording again. I wonder actually how that works. If I stop it now, does it create two recordings or does it just continue on? Oh, we're going to test it now. Hopefully I don't have two recordings for tomorrow. So I'm going to stop the recording now. I'm going to come back. Let's say I'm going to come back 23 minutes past 8 and then we'll continue from there. Scan the QR code, use the link.